Hello everyone, this video is on the constitutional crisis of the Roman Republic. Now when I say crisis, I really should probably say crises, because this is a string of events that over time weakened and undermined the Roman Republic's constitution. The set of rules or precedences that enabled the Republic to function. These rules and these precedents is what are what were enabled the Romans to keep the balance of power stable, to not have one side get too powerful over the other. And as we will see over this video, is that you know precedences were set, and that one side was able to take control, or one person was able to take control. And this ultimately led to Julius Caesar being able to take control of the whole republic and turning the Roman Republic into a Roman Empire. With that, let me explain the state that Rome is in right now. So if we let me zoom out here. If we look at Rome, over the last 200 years, they have been steadily expanding their territory, and they've been doing this all defensively, or so they claim. And the current year is 134 BC, and only 10 years ago they finally put an end to the Carthaginians, who were the people of the city of Carthage, and they had plagued Rome over the last 100 years during the Punic Wars, and been a hindering factor to Rome's expansion and dominance of the Mediterranean. Functioning, just well. They're just fine. They haven't had any serious civil strife in quite a while. And let me remind you of kind of the class system of the Roman Republic currently, and throughout the whole Republic actually. There are the plebeians, who are the common people. These are the farmers, or whatever, the people that, they did own land, but they didn't own much land, and they were poor. And then the second group was the patricians, and they were kind of the aristocrats and the more higher up people, and the bigger landholders, the people with more money. And over the last 200 years or so, the plebeians kept on getting more and more power, which was a good thing, because they were able to there's able to be more of a representation in the government of the people. And the plebeians were able to create the plebeian council, which became the main governing body that was able to pass laws and suggest laws. The plebeian council, was kind of presided over by a group of people called tribunes, or each tribune could talk to the Senate and request that the Senate listen up, and they could suggest laws to the Senate to be passed. And they're pretty strong people, and there's a handful of members of the tribune, of the plebeian council, the aristocrats. And this meant that there's a lot of people without jobs roaming the streets of Rome. Roaming Rome. Anyways, this was a serious problem to the plebeians, because Rome was getting all this wealth from conquered territories, and they were losing their lands and to wealthy aristocrats. And it was kind of like, we want to vote for someone that will give us what's rightfully ours. We fought, we should get some, why are we losing our lands, kind of thing. Anyways, two people came into the picture that in 134 BC, well, actually one person first, but Tiberius Gracchus and is his name. And these two people are the Gracchi brothers. Tiberius was the first one, and Gaius was obviously the second one. This picture of Gaius right here, you can see these are all the plebeians. He's kind of the head of the plebeian council, and they're he's asking what they want or whatever. So Tiberius was the first one to he got elected to the tribune, which is, remember, the body that oversees the plebeian council and that can pass laws. And through Tiberius was able to pass a lot of land reform laws that were, or he tried to at least pass land reform laws that would help the plebeians get more land and get more power, more rights, I should say. Now, I should also mention these two groups of people that we should talk about. So Tiberius is an example of a politician called a popularis. He's a popularis politician, and what these people are, or this political faction, I guess, you are a popularis if you pawn to the plebeian wants and you promise them rights and privileges, land, to get the vote, basically. So they played on the wants of these landless, jobless plebeians, and sorry about that. And they used the plebeians to get elected to be a tribune and to get to become involved in the affairs of the government. The optimates were people who were against the populares, and the optimates were composed of people who were part of the Senate. They were aristocrats. They were people who didn't want the populares to get too much of the vote, to get too popular, I guess, to get too powerful. And the populares, in their reasoning, they thought that not enough of the people were getting represented in the government. Not enough. There weren't enough rights for the plebeians. People deserved more of the wealth that was coming in to Rome from all these conquests. The optimists, on the other hand, they saw that this was kind of a degradation of the republic, because if the masses got too powerful, if it turned into a pure democracy, the Senate and the aristocrats, they would lose their power, and this would ruin the republican system, because part of a republican system is you have a democracy aspect of it, which is the plebeian council, whatever. You have a oligarchy part of it, and that's the Senate. And you have a dictatorship part of it, and that is represented by the consuls, who were the administrative and the executive administrators. And so, in the optimists' minds, the populares were they were a threat to the republic, and who knows, maybe the next tribune could, if they had enough of the people behind them, if they had enough of the votes, they could possibly choose their favorite general, and have that, they could get in a little alliance and they could take over the government. They could take out the consuls, order the Senate around. So that's what the optimists were afraid of. The populares, like I said before, they wanted to represent the people more, and they thought that the optimists were trying to take power away from the people. They kind of thought that the optimists were trying to keep power for themselves and kind of be greedy and keep the system the same because they were benefiting from it and they weren't. And both views were valid, I guess. There's definitely a problem with the plebeians, and there's definitely a problem with the plebeians not having any land. So it's kind of an unfortunate situation. Anyways, So getting back to Tiberius, he tried to pass some land reforms, I should say, some laws, and ultimately was accused of, being actually. Sorry, before I even talk about that, there's one incident that's very important. It kind of starts the republic down a spiral, and that incident was, so the Tiberius is with the other tribunes, and he's trying to get his laws to be passed, his land reform laws to be passed. Now the Senate, they have one of their own guys in the same tribune. He's kind of you know he's the Senate's pawn, I guess. He's kind of like, he's been lobbied by the Senate, and he's kind of under the Senate's control. And if tribunes are all, they're all equal in power. So if one tribune vetoes another tribune, nothing can get done. So the Senate used their inside guy to veto Tiberius on everything that he was trying to do. And this obviously made Tiberius mad. And Tiberius had him physically removed from, the premises. And that was kind of a big, that was a big step, because that introduced physical force and violence to, get the political process going. Now, in Tiberius's mind, this wasn't, and this was illegal, because a tribune was what they called is what they call sacrosanct, which means that they have, they are immune to they are immune to being accused of anything. You can't like really touch them. They're basically untouchable. And he basically took one of them out, and kind of that was illegal, and people were mad about that. But because Tiberius himself was a tribune, they couldn't do anything about that. And in Tiberius's mind, the way he saw it was that any tribune that says he's representing the people, because that's really what the tribunes were. They were kind of representatives of the plebeian council. If there's any tribune that doesn't represent the people faithfully, then that tribune should be removed. And that is a valid point. The Senate's inside guy was listening to the Senate, not to the people. And so Tiberius had a valid point, but he used force to enforce what he thought should have happened. So tribunes are only around for a year or so, and then they need to get reelected. And the moment if he didn't get reelected, the moment he stopped being in office, they were going to arrest him and try him for what he did, because that was illegal. He tried to get office a second time, and the Optimates resorted to violence. They accused Tiberius of trying to become a dictator, and they stormed this very same Roman forum and killed Tiberius and some of his followers. They basically clubbed him to death. So a couple years later, his brother Gaius decided to carry on the banner of the plebeians and continue those land reforms, and he actually expanded and extended what Tiberius had done, and did more damage, I guess, in the eyes of the Optimates, and was able to pass more land reforms. And like his brother, he also was assassinated, I guess, or killed by a mob, and a lot of his followers were killed because the Optimates, they were mostly the Senate. They still had a lot of power, and they accused them of trying to take down the Republic, I guess. Anyways, that's the Gracchi brothers, and what they kind of introduced political violence a little bit, but also they kind of it was their land reforms that really separated the populace into well, not the populace, but the politicians into the populares and the Optimates group. And we'll see later that this is kind of the side that different generals take. Like Sulla, he was a Optimate, and Marius was a popularis. And that eventually would be the key factor that would play into the fall of the Roman Republic. Well, this is the first part. Hopefully, I can make another one to explain what happens after this.